everybody, I hope you're doing well today. I'm going to try to not make this video too long, but I'll give you a couple of options for watching. But this video today is an important one. I think I should have made this a long time ago, but this is the top 4 things that I look for when I'm buying a banjo. Okay? These are the 4 most important things. I don't care if you're a beginner or what level you're at, you need to pay attention to these 4 things, okay? So number 1, and I'm going to go into detail of each of these after I tell you what these are. Number 1 is cost. That's self-explanatory. Number 2 is nut width. This is huge in playability of your banjo. Number 3, another huge playability issue, is the neck shape. Number 2 and 3 are completely playability, okay? Number 4, we want to look for the highest quality components and woods used and the best craftsmanship we can get, okay? So those are our top 4 things to look for when buying a banjo. All right, so let's go in depth on cost, all right? To some people, cost is not an issue, and for you, you might want to just fast forward it a little bit. But to other people, it's a huge issue, me included, okay? I have always went the route of buying cheaper to begin with. I shouldn't say cheaper, that acts like it's a negative. Less expensive, inexpensive, bargain, okay? Use whatever words you want there, it doesn't matter, okay? For me, it's always been about money. So I have to buy the best that I can for the amount of money that I, have to spend. If you have under about $500 or $600, you're going to be getting a beginner level instrument. Now, is that a negative? No, it's not a negative at all. But here's something I want you to consider. If you can afford to wait a little longer before purchasing that instrument and get some more money saved up for it, you're not going to regret it, okay? Because everybody, and I mean everybody that I've ever seen play a banjo, after about a year of playing, they want a new banjo. And they want to upgrade that beginner model they bought. Now, why do they want to do that? Well, they perceive that buying that more expensive banjo, it's going to be more comfortable, easier to play, sound better, look better, all these things, right? And they're right. They are correct. I have seen people rip and just play amazing on a beginner level banjo. So there's nothing negative about having a beginner level banjo. I don't want to get into that. But as I said, everybody after a year of play, they're ready to upgrade to a better banjo. And when you spend more money, you're going to get a better quality product. That's just, face the facts there. Better components to make up the banjo cost more, okay? Better craftsmanship costs more. Is it made in a factory where hundreds of them are made every day? Or is it handmade by just a few people, okay? These are all things to consider. Okay, so if you can afford, I would say go for over $600, but less than about $1,500, okay? In my eyes, and again, this is just my opinion, you can take it or leave it. Over about $1,500, you're just buying flash at that point. You may be buying custom and, maybe some flashy tone rings that make different sounds. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But kind of that's what you're getting into there. Fancy inlays, things of that nature. Once you buy a certain level of part, tuning pegs, nut, hardware, that all, it doesn't just get more and more and more and more and more. It gets to a certain level and stops, okay? Now, there's processes they'll do, like at Pisgah, they'll age your hardware to make it look aged brass hardware, and it's a real fancy thing, and it costs a little more. But it doesn't do anything. It just improves the look of it or makes it look the way you like it, okay? So that's what I'm talking about there, over the $1,500. That's kind of the things you get at that level. But it's not making the banjo play any better, okay? All right. So, there's your number one, your cost. You have to consider all that. Okay. Number two, nut width. Extremely, extremely important. I cannot stress this enough to you. And if you haven't played before, you may not understand this, but here it comes down to this. We have 4 strings here that we've got to put on our banjo. Okay. And they're spaced an equal distance apart here. And we've got a little bit of meat on either side to keep our string from going over the edge there. All right. Now, depending on the size of your fingers, you may press down a fret of a string and you may touch another string. Okay. That's bad. We don't want to do that. Now, a lot of beginners tend to flatten out their fingers, and they'll oftentimes do that. Obviously, we want to play on the pads of our fingers and kind of go straight down onto the fretboard. But with certain widths, you're going to have a problem with that, especially if you have any kind of beef to your fingers at all. If you have thicker fingers, I'd stay away from a 1 1/4 inch neck. It's just, or nut width. It's going to be harder. It's going to be harder to play. Those are all important things to consider. Now, that nut width, as I said, is going to affect your fingers as you play and the string spacing. Also, with those tight nut widths, you're going to more easily drag the string off of your fretboard, which is not a good thing. Okay. The Pisca that I had the widest nut width. There was no way I was dragging a string off the edge of that, and that was amazing. I could play with a little less precision, okay, and it would still sound clear, the notes, so that's good. So that 1 1/4 is so small that only people with small fingers would I recommend to get that. Again, my opinion, take it or leave it. Okay. The next, that was number 2. Number 3, the neck shape. Okay. This is a biggie here, but I've dealt with those necks. Okay. That neck is what I would call a thin C. Okay. So the neck is C-shaped, but it's not very deep. Okay. This is what I'm talking about here, the thickness of the neck. That right there, combined with a very short, or combined with a 1 1/4 inch nut width, makes those more difficult to play, in my opinion. You have to be dead on those strings perfectly. If you're the slightest bit off, you're going to deaden some of the other notes. Okay? With the neck, certain necks are going to make your playability better because they're going to keep your hand from getting fatigued as fast. Okay? And this is individual to everybody. So, you know, again, you have to realize this is just my opinion. Okay? But that thin C on the gold tones, and lots of other makers do that as well, I don't like it. It is too thin. It tends to stress out my fingers and my wrist when I try to play longer. Okay. I'm going to talk about the Pisca next because it was what I would call a thick or fat C neck. Okay. Still the C shape, but the thickness was much thicker, more like a baseball bat thick. I mean, just really thick, choked up on a baseball bat, sort of like a guitar. That's kind of what it makes me think of. A thick C there, okay? So, in combination with the widest nut width that I've dealt with, it also had the thickest, beefiest neck, okay? That's something to consider. This one, on the other hand, this is the 3rd type of neck I've dealt with, and it's my favorite so far. If I ever get to deal with any others, I can tell you that then. But this one's my favorite so far. This is what I would call a V-shaped neck. Instead of the C, we've got more of a V, okay? Now, there's no point at the bottom. It's not pointy at the back. It's rounded at the back, but it's a V. So, it's got the thickness of neck, but it doesn't feel as thick. It doesn't fill out your hand as much. It's more of like this, okay? So while it comes back as far, it feels a little thinner on the sides, okay? And to me, that's the best combination for me for playability and speed and accuracy, okay? So that's something to consider there, all right? So you've got cost, nut width, and neck. One other thing to talk about with on neck is what is it finished off with, okay? Is it lacquered? Is it just stained? What is it? You need to be able to touch it and feel it. Some builders will put too much lacquer back here and you will find yourself doing this number. That is bad. Okay, we don't want that. If you have overly sweaty hands, more lacquer on there may be a problem as well. So you want to be able to feel that smoothness. It needs to be just the right amount there for it to be good for you. Okay, so number 4, we've got our components, our woods, and our craftsmanship. Okay, obviously, the more you spend up to a certain level, you're going to max out your components, okay? And that's your tuners, your nut, your bridge, your hooks and brackets and tone ring and all that stuff, right? You're going to max that out, and that's great. There's different colors of these. They can age them, like I was telling you, for those more expensive ones. But what we want here is we want a good tuner that will... and most builders only use 2 or 3 makers because they're the best out there. Over that $600 level, you better be getting planetary tuners. If they're not giving them to you, you're not getting what you should be getting. Nut material, they'll start out with plastic on the beginner level banjos. They'll go up to a composite material like micarta, something like that, and then finally they'll go up to bone, and that'll be your best nut choice. Your hooks and brackets and tone ring, many different choices there as well, but we want to make sure you want to check those out. You want to be able to adjust the neck. Here where I live, it's very humid, and I have all 4 seasons that I deal with, so I do want the ability to change that neck and move that neck. So you want to look for that as well. Now let's get into woods. Obviously, the woods make a difference in the sound as well, okay? So you want to check out the woods. Ebony on a fretboard is common at that higher level of cost I was telling you about, and that's because it feels like butter. Butter in that it's smooth and comfortable. Playability. This goes to playability here, okay? When you get a very hard wood like ebony, you can play faster, you can play more accurate, and it just feels better. I tell you what. Oh, it feels good. This is my first full ebony. This is my first ebony fretboard. It feels nice. Now, keep in mind too, they make fretboards out of other materials as well that are very hard woods that are in the same family as ebony. You just have to look those up and find out about that. The Pisco was made of persimmon, the fretboard, which is also in the ebony family. It was very hard and very nice feeling as well. So you want to look for that. Bridges are very subjective, and you're going to change that anyway, so don't worry about the bridge that's on it. Strings, same thing. You're going to mess around with it, okay? The head on it. Most of them now come with either like a Remo Renaissance, an Amber Elite, or a Remo Fiberskin. Also, another inexpensive thing to try out different things. This currently has a goatskin head on it, and I really like it. But that's something that you can change as well. The craftsmanship also goes down to things like, the finish work. How does everything feel and look? Do you have anything looking bad and unfinished and not glued properly? Things like that. You don't want to mess with any of that, obviously. Right here, when you run your hand down it, do you feel the frets? Okay, you're going to feel them just a touch, but are they sharp and jagged in any way? If they are, I submit to you that that builder did not finish those off properly, and they're not dressed properly, and they need some more work, and I would not purchase that. And this is on a new instrument, not a used instrument. Over time, humidity, stuff changes, and this can happen over time, and it can be fixed. But when you're buying a new instrument, you shouldn't have any of that. Zero, okay? And that goes down to the craftsmanship as well. And your finished work, and you know, all your little things. This has an ebony heel cap. That's an added thing. Is it necessary? Does it do anything? No, it looks nice though. There's also a nicely stained cap on the rim here. So you've got things here that I've talked to you about to look for. Additional things would be, does it come with a case? It doesn't really matter if it comes with a case. Too many people get caught up in this. All right? It doesn't matter if it comes with a case at all. That has nothing, zero to do with the playability and how it's going to sound. It's a nice bonus if it comes with a case. Great. Mine came with an awesome hard case. But would I have bought it without it? Absolutely. I could care less about a case. I can always go and get a hard shell case pretty easily. So if it comes with a soft case that's got no padding in it, that's not a plus. If it comes with a medium case with some zippers and stuff, okay, fine, that's good. But is it going to make or break the sale to me? No. And the hard case too. You know, I want the banjo to sound good. Okay, I don't care about getting a DVD with it or whatever. So I hope that this has helped you and given you some things to think about before purchasing your next banjo. If you're a scoop player, that's something to consider too. I don't do a lot of playing up here anyway. It would be nice to have these frets, but it doesn't matter to me. I really don't come up here and have no desire to come up here. Some people do though, so that's something to think about, okay? That's about it. That's about all the things I can think of. And those top 4 are what you're going to really want to look for. Now, I've had people that want to talk to me extensively about what my opinion is on buying a banjo. And that's kind of why I'm making this video, okay? To help some people out with that. Don't worry about the bridge. Don't worry about the strings. You're going to replace all that anyway. And really, you're going to replace the head too. You're going to mess around with it. The tone ring is something to consider. Listen to some different tone rings. I didn't put it as an important thing because a lot of them come with pretty much a rolled brass tone ring in that price range. But you do need to do your homework if it doesn't. For the sound that I look for, and a lot of people look for, we want the rolled brass tone ring. But the White Lady tone rings, the Dobson tone rings, the Tubaphone, you know, the Bacon ones. There's so many different ones. Those are going to come at different price points, and they make your banjo sound a lot different. So that's things to consider as well. But I made this video because I do get a lot of people asking about this, and they really want me to go in depth with them about it. And I'm not really willing to do that with everybody. I'm sorry. I don't have the time to do that. If you are a patron, I will definitely talk to you about it. And if you're one of my lessons folks, I will give you a call and we'll have an extensive conversation about it if you would like. So I thought I'd make this video specifically addressing what I look for. And yeah. I'm sorry to do that, but I just don't have the time, you guys. I hope you'll consider these things before buying your next banjo and really take some time to think about them and research these things. But before I go, I always want to remind you that Jesus loves you. Bye-bye, y'all.